Our next guest is Allan Kosup, the project manager or corridor director for the Interstate 5 project. Allison?
Okay, so Allan, obviously anyone who lives in Oceanside is interested to know about in the future of how they're going to be able to get up and down to San Diego, because that corridor is getting more and more impossible. You've been on KOCT before talking about the corridor project, and one of the big objections to expanding the freeway was that Senator Kehoe said we need to be developing the train as well as the freeway. Bring us up to date as to what the current plan does in terms of balancing the train and the freeway.
Sure. No, and we definitely agree. We can do a lot better in terms of getting people out of their cars. And the whole vision of North Coast Corridor is a $6.5 billion investment in both rail improvements, so we can get additional trains, we can get more frequency of trains, express lanes on I-5, and these would cater towards carpools and buses and van pools, and then allow access for single occupant vehicles. And then also using that as an opportunity to grow our active transportation options in the corridor, additional bike and pedestrian facilities. So $6.5 billion, it's meant to be an integrated package of improvements. So we think it's a real unique approach to transportation.
So you're going to spend some of that $6 billion on the train at the same time as the road, rather than do the road first and then the train?
Definitely, and that was one of the things that the senator was very concerned about, and we heard from all the folks in the corridor. They want a balanced program. They don't want us just to build the highway and then hope that the rail improvements or the environmental improvements come later. And so, you know, our blueprint has basically 4 10-year decades, and we lay out rail, highway, environmental, bike and ped improvements in each decade. So there's assurances, folks know what they're getting and when they're getting it.
So you're planning 40 years out?
Yes.
Is that correct? Does that mean that the double tracking is going to be a reality through Del Mar and the tunnel and all that stuff? So
one of the challenges, obviously, is the region, especially with transportation revenue where it is nationwide, folks don't have $6.5 billion all in one fell swoop. And so the question is, how do we build elements that improve our life today and still support an overall foundation in the future? And the double track is a perfect example. We have 7 or 8 miles already on the on the drawing boards, developing those. And with those improvements, we can get additional trains. The last piece, the tunnel through Del Mar, is obviously one of the more complex
That's
pieces.
The 4th decade.
That is the 4th decade. But the good news is we can get a lot more trains on there without getting to that tunnel component.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which decade is the 78 I-5 interchange?
Yeah, great question. Right now, from a regional planning perspective, it's out a little ways. It's in the 2020 to 2030 timeframe. But yeah, essentially that's based on every 4 years, region gets together and looks at their revenue projections and tries to figure out regional priorities. And that's where it was in the last time the region did that. The good news is we were able to find some money and get the environmental process started. And we're looking at 4 or 5 build alternatives. In fact, this summer there will be some initial public scoping meetings with the public. Public gets to come and express their ideas on how to solve this problem. And then so 2 or 3 years from now, we'll have an environmental document, we'll know how much it costs, and that will give us an opportunity to try to find additional revenue and move it forward. So I think the goal is to try to advance these things.